Hello, Peckin here. Today I'd like to share with you all the Graflex buttons that I have available. Um, I am a fan of the Graflex you see here, which is very popular in many of the prequel and the OG Graflex that's shown in the Star Wars film. And these things, the originals, are very sought after. So, because there are a very limited amount of these graphics now, I'm here to discuss about the various red buttons that we have available from different companies that offer with their graphics. So, if you're buying um, red buttons, you want to make sure you hopefully get the right information to know what you're wanting, what you want to get. So again, I just want to share with you, this is my vintage. It has the original Fulmer without the patent. This is a very beautiful flash gun. So it has this special red button, knurling, that's for the original Fulmer without patented, available for this vintage. So there's no replica company, as far as I know, that replicates this earlier style red button, which also can be found in reference to the Elstree Studios, which is used for A New Hope. But anyways, let's go over the red buttons. Starting with this one, these are the earlier Graflex 2.5s when Korbanth partners up with Parks, Sabers to create red buttons. As you can see, the earlier ones have the Graflex 2.0, 2.1s have the anodize on a metal button, the layer, and you also notice that the shape of it is more angled. So as you can see that this is also vented, where you can have wires going through there, but I find it pretty difficult to install one of these. These are much preferred to install, as it has a tactile with the PCB, which makes this clicky feel. And of course, with this around, you need to also grind them down to fit it to a installed Graflex. Now, this is meant for an installed hilt. So any of these thumb screws, these are 1032 thumb screws. Anytime you have the threads of this long, you're going to have to cut it and grind them down, because these are meant to for a blade to go into a specialized blade holder, where this thing meets against the blade and secures it from flying out of your installed lightsaber hilt. Now these are not meant to be used with the static, or rather flash gun with this type, as it doesn't have any threads around the rim. These are meant for a bladed saber. So let me take these gloves off, because it's not as easy to show off what these red buttons are. Okay, so these are the earlier Graflex 2.0s to 2.1s. It wasn't until the 2.5s they actually made it where it is much more accurate stepping. And I do like the fact that these are angled at the bottom, and they're all beveled from each of the edges on the red button. So this, to my eye, is a better representation of the red button for a Korbanth Parks Graflex 2.5s. They really did a great job on this one. And this one is another red button from the Graflex Shop. Notice that the red button is an earlier edition until they changed it for this one over here, until they changed the accurate color and pigment of the red button. Now, the difference between this one, the Korbanth, that even though the outside looks great and all, but the red button itself has a slightly different color than the original. Now I want to share with you, this is the original red button from, this one's used for a Fulmer with patent. And I use this, and also you could use this for a Fulmer without patent. So it's used for patent without patent. And they use for, this one I use it for Empire Strikes Back Luke. As you can see, the red button has a nice oval on top, whereas the Korbanth sits a little bit flatter. But the shape is wonderful, as it matches with the grooves, as well as the bevel. Okay, so this is Graflex 2.5. These two were the older versions, 2.0, 2.1s, and this is the thumb screw from the Graflex Shop. Older version, by the way. They already updated with a better representation of the red color. So, as you can see, the next one we have here is the 89 Sabers red button. Notice that it is angled. In my eye, from here to here is starting off from, good to the best. Again, these are my opinions. These are up to your interpretations. I leave it up to you to decide. But from my opinion, anytime I see an angled red button, these need to be hopefully a little bit more accurate to something more like the Korbanth kind, where it shouldn't be as angled like that, and also needs to be beveled more. The corners, each of the edges are sharp, well, they're not too sharp, but they have this nice sharp edges on the grooves, which is wonderful to see. But I just wish they put a little bit more to make it more like this style. But who knows, they might change that. Again, this is an earlier version of the 89 Sabers, and I noticed that they actually made one where there is a vintage kind that looks like this, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to see 89 Sabers improving their red buttons, and notice that it has this nice oval on top. And of course, like this one, this is a Roman props earlier version. Roman props have a rivet stuck at the bottom, and each of the grooves are nicely angled, sharp, but I'm not a big fan of the angled. Again, this is their earlier versions until they actually made a better version, which is over here. This is like the A version. This is the B version, which they did in a later run, that they actually improved the angle and the shape of the original Graflex button. So Roman props did a really good, really awesome improvement, and the lines became nice and sharp, and it has this nice rivet at the bottom. I do wish that Roman props were to make them more like that, with the hole. That way it feels and matches with the vintage. And of course you'll have the same oval like shape. These, the circle, the cups, they actually can reach at the top where it actually presses the two contacts of the graphics buttons. So the two contacts that helps release the output against the flash bulb, which eventually uses the flash on the original how it was back in 1940s. So these can actually reach to the contacts, the brass pins. Okay, so this is the earlier version. Not my cup of tea. So the next one is KR Sabers red button. Now this is not my favorite because of the color. It is forcibly dull to my taste, I believe. But I do like that the angles are nice and sharp. But I'm not a big fan of the color, as it is very, in my eye, kind of tacky. It is oval, it's very nice. But the problem with this is that when you press on it, it doesn't go directly at the top to reach to the contacts of the brass pins. And that became an issue. So I was told that in order for it to catch it, you have to unscrew or to loosen up the brass pins to forcibly move the brass pins upwards so they can catch against the cup, so you can make contact with the flash. But again, in doing so, you have to change the spring because when you have the contacts, there are springs underneath it, and you have to stretch that to make contact with the contacts inside the holder. But I don't want to do that. So I just wish that KR were to make this a little higher. But I assume that this is meant for an installed lightsaber with the blade, so you have enough room where you can put a rubber gasket or something, so that you can press the button to activate the tactile switch. But again, I'm not really into this color, to be honest, but I do like the shape of it. So that's my feedback on that. The next one I like is, of course, is this one is the woman props. I really like this one. But the next one is the Graflex Shop. Now I know that Graflex Shop has improved the edges. This is the earlier versions where the edges are actually shaved down, and I wasn't a big fan of that. But I do like the angle of the Graflex red button, how it's like that, and how it's beveled at the bottom. I just wish that there wouldn't be a screw, a Phillips. I would have preferred to see it more like that, without any obstruction. But of course, I know this is probably for, again, a lightsaber build. I like it more towards the prop, the Graflex. So that's the red button, and I know that, again, the Graflex Shop has improved the red button over the years with a sharper angle, just like the previous one. And of course, they still remain the chrome design, and of course, they still have the Phillips screw at the bottom. Now, this is the Rowan props. I do like the Rowan props because because I like it that's clean, that that it has a rivet instead of the screw. Of course, it is ovaled at the top. Each of the colors of the red buttons, even the Graflex Shop, is wonderfully done, as well as the KR Sabers. If you want to compare that to the original, this is the original. This is actually a lighter red. This is a touch darker. So let's go over this one. That's not. This one is the older version. Go after this one. This is the ones with the correct geometry on the angle. So you have that. That is a touch darker, whereas the original vintages are a little lighter shade of red. And this is the ruined props. Same thing. Now, the last but not least of one of the best replicas I've seen for a red button, and I think this one is perfected than any other red buttons out here that exist. I think this one is one of the best. Of course, you would have, again, KR Sabers, you would have the Graflex Shop, and you have the Roman props. But this one, and I don't know if the company is still there or active, this one came from Maker Prop Studio, or as they say, the MPS. Now, the color of the red button is spot on. A nice reddish color. If you were to put it on the other side, it is nearly identical, as well as the color. And notice that there is nice little sanded marks at the bottom, near, as you can see. It's not all chrome as it is. Let's compare it with the Romans. This is perfect, and also you can see that it's same way, sanded out like it is at the vintage. And the only difference is that this is meant to be made for a saber, as it has the dowel, the red button dowel, that it's meant to press against a tactile switch. But this is great for a replacement to use for an Empire Strikes Back if you're hunting for red buttons. And these things can get really expensive. They go hundreds of dollars on eBay, and they're very hard to find. But to get a perfect substitute, I couldn't find anything as perfect as Maker Prop Studio. That is, I mean, look at the grooves. The grooves are beautifully done, and they have a really nice exact representation. And of course, the corners of each one of the grooves are nice and sharp, and how it interconnects between the two red buttons. It is seamless. I just wish that the company is around to start selling these, but this is perfect. And I just wish they actually make one with the vintage style. So then you would have a really awesome red button. Now, if you were to take a picture with a flash, compared to these two, and against the chrome, you would notice that each of the individual grooves are shined evenly between the grooves. Whereas the chrome, as you take a picture with it, you'll notice that the shine would just shine against all of the grooves. I mean, which means like the light would just refract off, and at one point, at a point where the light would just hit at an angle. I'll just show you a picture to show you what I mean. You'll see a sharp light like a chrome mirror-like finish. So you see a light where it sits. Whereas as you shine a light and as you take a picture, each of the grooves are actually reflective off from each other. This is a masterful work. I don't think I've seen any other company that does something like this. If you find one from the Maker Prop Studio, congratulations, you got one of the best looking red buttons that is near and close to a vintage, as far as I can see. So again, this video is to demonstrate the type of red buttons that is available in the market or unavailable, but it goes to show you what you can look for and what to invest on if you're planning to build a Graflex with vintage parts or replica parts. So I hope this video finds it helpful. I'm a big fan of the Graflex, so I love to keep it as pristine and vintage like it is in the 1940s, because everybody seems to be butchering them to make it more like the actual prop in Star Wars, but every time they butcher it, you kind of lost the history where the graphics came from. Now this is a vintage Fulmer, and this is very, very special. You can't find anything like this except eBay. You can only get that on eBay, and they cost a lot. So this is one of my holy grails in my collection. And again, I hope you find this video helpful. This is Packin signing off. Peace.